Hacr is who we are because of the 13 coalitions members that come together, that have been together for over 22 years. That's an amazing feat to keep 13 different organizations together, all focused on corporate social responsibility. And that is what makes Hacr the organization that we are.
It's a real privilege for us to have this group meeting here today. For us to learn and to keep our focus, which we frankly have to keep working hard and looking to our colleagues to get that focus.
What's the smartest thing that you have done during your CEO tenure to develop the diversity of your workforce?
From a CEO, part of where you come back, whether you look at specific numbers or you just look across an audience, you start asking questions, well, where are people with diverse backgrounds? Well, you'll get the story, they're hard to recruit, they won't come to Central Illinois or whatever it might be, a lot of the excuses. And I think as a corporate leader, you have to push back. You have to demand more. Well, I want to see more names. I want to see more people that I can look at that could bring opportunity to the organization. And I think the other thing, another avenue you come, what are you doing in an area we have been heavily involved in? What do we do in the schools? What do we do to address the next generation in basically doing, the farm team, so to speak, for those kids who are going to be coming out of school looking for jobs? How do we tap into that? And those kind of concerted efforts. It's not a point in time, it's how do you look at the continuum from a youngster finishing up their formal education, even helping them with that formal education, and moving them through a career of lifelong learning and career development and promotion.
Joe, when you came into to Univision a year ago, did you have you set goals? Have you wanted to make shifts in terms of the diversity of your workforce, or is it kind of as diverse as you want it to be?
Well, 82% of our employee base happens to be Hispanic.
Is that good?
But then again, I have the unique advantage of being in the business of doing nothing but serving the U.S. Hispanic community, so it makes sense for us. I think this was a lesson I learned many years ago when actually I was an employee of a division of Time Warner, and Time Warner acquired Turner Broadcasting, and Jeff Bewkes was running HBO at the time, and HBO had done such a marvelous job of really embracing diversity and demonstrating that if you wanted to be successful with the consumers, you needed to have your own people had to be of the community, and making sure that all the diverse interests were represented there. And I think you get, I guess George Patton said it, if everybody's thinking alike, then nobody's thinking. So really need to make sure that everyone's opinion is heard, and we need to make sure that the voice that we afford them is something that we're going to listen to. And I think what Ed had said, listening is very important.
What about pay? What about tying pay to diversity goals? What do you all do, and what have you learned about that?
You have to get it into the psyche of the organization, and you can offer incentives, but ultimately people really need to believe that it makes good business sense to have a diverse workforce. It makes good business sense to market and sell your products with the nuances or with the language or whatever that's required of your diverse consumers. And if you're, and certainly our workforce is incentivized by their performance. And we've got to say you need to be living under a rock not to understand that if you don't actually go out and address the market as it exists, you're not going to hit your targets, you're not going to exceed your targets. And so, a good example of that is in Los Angeles, our sales and marketing team is 85% Hispanic, because it reflects that is the market. And surprise, surprise, they're doing exceptionally well. And we do obviously have at the senior level diversity as a goal, and we measure ourselves against it. But through the organization, I really do believe that people have just got to see the absolute common sense of doing it, and then it happens.
Why aren't there many Hispanic women who have moved up in corporate America. And is there something that needs to happen out there to be the trigger to get that flow going? Does it need to be measured better, or what?
The fundamental issue is pipeline. Because at the end of the day, first thing you have to do is sort of knock down the doors, right? Break the glass ceiling, use whatever metaphor you want, and make it not only acceptable, but an imperative that you have more diversity at all levels of corporations. But then the hard part starts. Then you actually have to go out and find some man or woman or man who can do the job. And usually that doesn't come from the ether. Usually that comes from within an organization. You reach down and you pull people up, or you pull them out of other organizations where they're doing work that you can look at and evaluate and sort of see that they can fit. So I would say you have pipeline issues across the diversity landscape, but they show up, interestingly, at least my experience has been, in two areas in particular: Black males and Hispanic females. And I don't know enough about what's afflicting both of those gender diverse populations, but you actually find many more African American females who are ready to take the next step and who are in the pipeline than African American males. And similarly, I think more Hispanic males than Hispanic females. And so the pipeline's just got to fill.
Did you guys want to be a CEO someday?
When,
Is that a goal of yours? You want to be a
was
CEO?
when I was
Dick?
the COO.
Excellent answer.
I think that there's probably a lot of truth in that. I don't believe that many people sort of go through their early years and say that's my goal. It's more likely I want to be a professional athlete or a rock star like Patty. But there does reach a point, I think, in your career where you've had some success, you've been able to make a contribution, and then there's a yearning. I want to make an even bigger imprint on the organization, and how do I best do that? And in the CEO role, you learn a couple things. Number one, you learn that changing culture is not for the faint of heart, and it takes years. And you also learn that if you thought that by becoming the CEO you were going to be able to make all the decisions, it's actually the opposite. I make far fewer decisions now. It's about setting strategy, it's about bringing in the right resources, it's about prioritizing of all the things that we could do, what really is going to help advance the business. But day-to-day decision making, and I think Ed spoke to this briefly earlier, boy, if as a CEO you're in your office making a bunch of decisions, it means there's tens of thousands of people out there in the organization that start to sort of wait to what does the person in the corner think. And to me, it's a very unhealthy dynamic. So in my first year and a half in this role, I have been struck by how important it is for me to actually hold back from making the decisions, but create a context within which people can flourish. So I think more and focus more about the culture and about the strategy and less about the day-to-day execution of the business.